Well, hello. Welcome to the Artemis Defense Institute. My name is Stephen Lieberman, and in this video series, we're going over some of the basics, the fundamentals of firearm ownership. It's really intended for new gun owners, yet I think owners of firearms that have been in possession of these guns for years can still take real advantage of some of the information that's provided in here. This particular video is going to focus on the very basics of holstering systems for our guns. Now, as always, with each one of our videos, we start the same way. We're going to go over the 4 safety rules. Number 1, we're going to treat all firearms as though they are loaded. We are never going to allow the muzzle to cover or point at anything that we're not prepared to destroy. We're going to keep our finger off the trigger unless our sights are on target and we made the decision to shoot. And lastly, we need to know our target and its environment. Now, there are a number of different types of holsters that are out there. And in fact, if you've gone through our CCW class, you know that we go through an entire section on holsters. And that holsters themselves are not defined as being, efficient for us based on their cost or anything like that. The fact of the matter is, each one of us has a unique human body. And what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. Holsters are unique, intimate items, and you need to experiment with holsters to see whether or not they ultimately do work for you. You also have to try to figure out what it is you're planning on doing with the gun. Somebody who's a competitive shooter is going to have a much different holstering system than somebody who carries concealed all the time, or somebody who actually carries exposed all the time. So we've got to, we can't, just the scope of this video, we can't go through the 5,000 different holsters that are out there, but I do want to go over a couple of very, very basics. Okay, now, all of these holsters are going to be what we call sort of waistband-oriented holsters, meaning we're not talking about exotic methods of carry like, in fanny packs or in, deep concealment or anything like that. These are sort of general waistband style holsters. And, some holsters are designed to fit inside your waistband. Other holsters are designed to fit outside the waistband. You'll, again, have to experiment on what's the most comfortable for you. But within all of these genres, holsters do come down to basically material manufacture. Some holsters are made out of polymer, other holsters are made out of leather. And just by and large, I would say the majority of them fall into these 2 categories, okay? One of the most inexpensive holsters, and quite candidly, one of the most comfortable, is this product called a sticky holster. Now, this is really only viable for people who carry their firearms concealed, okay? It's not particularly good for range work. In fact, I think it actually is very dangerous for range work. You draw your gun out of this inside the waistband holstering system, but then to reholster, you have to physically pull this out of your waistline, reinsert the firearm, and then place it back on in. Once you've pulled the firearm out, the holster is going to collapse based on your own waistline, okay? That being said, for carrying, it's extraordinarily comfortable. I'm carrying one right now inside the waistband with a sticky holster. They're really, really, really comfortable for daily carry. What a lot of people prefer to carry with is something called Kydex, okay? This is a Kydex holster. It's a thermoplastic resin holster that's been molded around the firearm. The nice thing about Kydex is that it has what we call natural retention. If I had my firearm in this, I could turn it upside down and the firearm wouldn't slip out. It's got a natural retention built into it so that it's secure. The nice thing about Kydex is that it sits very, very, very close to your body, and that's because of the way that the belt loops are typically shaped on this. Now, other exposed carry Kydex will sit farther out, but the nice thing, like I said, about Kydex is it's very sleek, sits very close to the body. That being said, the constant going in and coming out of the holster can affect the finish of your firearm. So that's something you might want to consider when you're, looking at a Kydex holster. But when I'm carrying my 1911, this is the holster that I use most frequently. The other type of holster is the standard leather holster. This one is from US Galco. It's an extremely good product. These are also molded around an existing firearm, and that's how you can see the outline of the firearm actually in the molding of the leather. This holster sits very close to the body. It's extremely comfortable to wear. And one little pro tip for those of you who do get a leather holster: when you first get the holster, it's going to be slightly smaller than is necessary to have your gun fit in there properly. And you're going to be wedging it in and doing all sorts of things, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm never going to be able to get my gun out quickly enough. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. Well, leather holsters need to be cured just like leather baseball mitts or anything like that. One of the quickest ways you can do it is if you take a sleeve of or a sheet of wax paper. You take your firearm, and if you'll notice that the wax paper, there's a waxy side and there's a non-waxy side. If you take the non-waxy side, put it against your muzzle, obviously your gun's unloaded, put it against your muzzle and wrap it around the firearm. Then, with as much aggression as you can muster, shove that assemblage into your holster. Let it sit overnight. The next morning, when you pull your firearm out and remove the wax paper, sleeve the gun back on in, you're going to have an absolutely perfect fit, and it will stay that way for the rest of your life. So just something to consider when you do get that leather holster. Like I said, there's a myriad of different holsters that are available, and if you have any questions at all about whether a holster will work for you or not work for you, I definitely encourage you to contact us at the Artemis Defense Institute. We can kind of walk you through the process, make some recommendations. As always, I want you to train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.